I think we are good to go. Hey folks, good morning. Today is Friday, 22 April, and we are in Cluster API priority meeting for IBMCloud. Yeah, so mostly the agenda-wise, we'll go through the work items like what we delivered, and then we'll also discuss the backlogs, and then we'll look at the release outstanding also, right? A backlog should cover that in so quickly I'll just go to the project. All right, so what do we commit directly? That will give you the idea. So last meeting was on April 8th. So after that, almost 15 days, right? Okay, maybe we can discuss this as well, including this one. So we did fix some minor issue in VPC. Project, you want to talk about this fix?
Sure, Manju. So while creating a VPC cluster, right? So I noticed that there were a few issues were being faced. One of them was like while creating the public gateway thing, right? So the issue was that while passing the API calls, right? So it was assumed that resource group, if you set for a superset function like then it would be like propagated downwards, but that is not the case. You have to explicitly pass like resource ID parameter to each and every call that you make, right? Which is like for example creating a public gateway here. So initially that resource group was not being passed to that function, so we have refactored that. So we are passing the resource group and that issue was fixed. That was the one thing. And if you scroll down, yeah, so same thing was done for the machine code also, right? So there were a few other functions also where the resource group parameter was missing, so we just passed it out and then we fixed those minor issues. Yeah.
Okay, nice. And not any other required this resource group, right? For example, security policy or whatever. So
Yes, Manju. Yeah. So yeah. So I checked the entire code. Some of them already had resource group ID, whichever resource group was missing, right? For whichever of the functions I did for all of those. And I think the other part of this was related to just minor linting, right? So there were some files which were generated. So it was just fixed like with the generate command and everything. Yeah.
Okay, nice. All right. So yeah, I think with this, like
yes, and
yeah.
So this change, right? So it was basically for the service endpoint, right? So the initial code, if you see, it was trying to get the service point from the environment, but that was not working. So we are directly deriving that service endpoint from the region that the user will pass as a part of the spec, right? And the endpoint remains the same, and the table mapping that we have already in the documents works fine with this logic. Like there should not be any other issue. Yeah.
Okay, and then also going forward, so this is really meant for the production environment for sure. Also, we need to think about how do we override some of these service endpoints, especially for let's say like for the test staging environment we have for the IBMCloud, right? So we need to think in that direction also. How do we kind of enable the entire project for working on the staging, or even let's say customer gets their own private endpoints, right? So we also need to kind of work in that direction to get overrides on the service endpoints. I'm not sure if you have any sort of a task for that.
No, Manju, we don't have any task, but yeah, that totally makes sense because there are staging endpoints, right? So which are there, which can be used here. So mostly this will like service endpoint will go as a part of the spec. If it is not specified, maybe derived from the region itself, right? So we'll see.
Maybe,
We'll check on that logic. Yeah.
maybe I think we'll explore that. Maybe we'll create a task for that. Create an issue for ID this service. Staging, for example,
Client related.
or private or
Yeah.
private or custom. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll have to explore. I think this one we can explore and see how it goes. Okay.
Yes, Manju. Yeah.
Thanks for the quick explanation. So the next, this is like the operation. Right. So I think with this also I did fix. So this is mainly for handle the scope properly. Right. Yeah. So this is mainly meant for fixing one of the this was crashing basically. It was crashing somewhere here. Maybe I'll just do this. Yeah, so this is while, let's say there is some mistake in the spec and then it's trying to, update the or use the Kubernetes client, which is not really like exists that time, that point of time. So basically it is trying to patch an object, but it doesn't really have a proper client, which is null, and then it is throwing this, 6sec-v. So that one we just fixed it here by, creating this whole scope little early, and also kind of assigning these clients and all to this scope and return that scope properly. Instead of returning nil, so now we are passing a scope, right? So that's what it is. We did fix that and then post that it will not really crash. Right. So yeah, it's basically for returning a proper scope instead of returning nil is the fix here we made. All right. So earlier we were returning only scope in the end, not with every return, right? So that's something got modified and fixed here. So that's working fine. And then also we did update some the utility also, the latest utility. So this will onboard, or this will ensure. And basically, it was failing because I don't remember which one. So the region, yeah. So Osaka was not there before, and then this utility update will ensure that we have Osaka also in place, as in it will also work for Osaka region, right? So that's the fix went in this previous util. Yeah, I mean, always I found that this is little, you know, kind of static. I mean, this really breaks again if basically, I mean, the code doesn't really work if, let's say, new region got added, right? So because we're just comparing regions with existing list here from switch case. So only these things we are allowing. So if any new feature or region or colo get added in the future, so this needs a modification. So what really means is that the existing code doesn't really work. So that needs a patch for supporting a new region or zone. So list seems to be okay as of now. So but not sure if what's the plan, if they have any sort of a plan in future for adding additional region or so on. So this needs the addition or modification or enhancement, whatever. Yeah, so we'll have to think about how do we handle this, nicely going forward. So, but I just have this as of now. Right? I'll just create an issue for that. Create an issue for handling zone region. Okay. All right. And so next one is like the image published, right? So this is mainly we did like I did a push latest image for the CAPI image, so which you can all use now. So it's with name 123.5. And so what really this means is that this image contains your kubelet and kubedium and everything of 123.23.5 version, right? So that's what pushed in the bucket, right? And also update the docs. And the next one is for the cloud provider. So this is mainly for CCM. Okay. Yeah. So now we have another template added here. Part of the. Okay. So this is not just. Okay. So this is the template anyway. So this is the template for adding Power cloud provider, as in we can deploy the cluster with a CCM integrated, right? So that's what we have done. And then with that also, like we also added code for building the CCM code from OpenShift repository at the moment. So maybe I'll just show you the Docker file how we are building this image. The CCM code is still not really kind of open sourced in Kubernetes, or and the route we are taking as of now is cloning the code which exists in OpenShift org, so under cloud provider for OVS, and then we are building the image with like the cloud manager from that repository, and also we need something called VPC which is responsible for making calls to VPC and create load balance and everything, right? So all that load balancer thing, especially for external load balancer, this is the code we use. So all that logic resides here in this repository, and then we're just building those binaries and then shipping in this Docker image, and then eventually this Docker image get pushed via this make file in staging repository somewhere here. And that image will be used in the template. So, so the template is a little tricky here. So I think maybe we need a deeper, like deep dive session from Karthik on this, like how exactly this works and all. But in as an overview, like in cluster API, there is option for creating or deploying this whole custom deployment or whatever you call it as via the cluster API itself. Okay, so this is somewhere here, right? So if you look at, you can create config maps, and then you can create, where is that CCM? Okay. You can also create config map with content of CCM also here, right? So you can see here, so this is the whole deployment, what you want to deploy, post deploy of your cluster, right? So you can all define in the cluster itself, as in cluster city itself, and the template itself. For example, the CCM code exists here, as in the deployment spec exists here, service account and the role binding, everything, right? So if you come down to daemon set, so it's running as daemon set on deployed clusters, basically like whatever cluster you deploy, so it is going to run as deployed daemon set there. You can see here, so this image is going to be replaced with the image what we built part of Bravo. So this will get replaced. So this is just the placeholder we had. Okay, so maybe I think one detailed discussion or a session required from Karthik for sure to understand how this entire flow works. But yeah, I mean, so basically it is like the cluster resource set is another CRD, they use it with cluster APIs. I think this is where it is used. Basically, you're saying that config map this and this now get pushed once you deploy the cluster, right? So it will get pushed as part of the cluster resource set or something like that. I mean, once you have your cluster deployed, so I think this will get executed and then pushed. Like it will basically use that kube config file and then it will create all these resources into that target cluster. So I think that's what the approach we are taking here. So any questions here? Meanwhile, do we know like why do we need this? I don't see.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Okay. So yes, I do see the need of it. Probably a deeper session from Karthik will give more idea on it.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I see Prajot left the meeting.
Oh, is it up? Okay. Yeah, he rejoined.
Okay. I see, man. Yeah, Prajot, you left it within
Yes, Manju. I mean, yeah, my Wi-Fi suddenly went down. Yeah, so I connected
Okay.
to a correct network. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just talking through this CCM integration we made into the cluster API thing. So just going through this. Anyway, I think we just need another session from Karthik to understand the entire flow, right? So maybe that'll be helpful for to understand how we are doing this now. But so that's overall. It's mainly like adding template with the CCM deployment. And I think we made some changes here also for there were some issues with the code what we pushed. I mean, again, the Docker everything and all got fixed. And another contribution made by is a person called I mean I don't remember his name, but so he's from Germany. He's basically trying to deploy the VPC cluster and then whatnot. So he did create his own image and then he could able to deploy the cluster. So that's where we just the issue reported for VPC and all that. So it's got fixed. Then he could able to deploy the VPC cluster and then whatnot. So he just made some contribution to the project for explaining how exactly he kind of built the image and then imported the image into into the VPC for deployment and all. So that's one small contribution made by him to the docs. And yeah, so again, he did update to the course code as in replaced with the proper image to be vector files. That's one thing. And so this is another important item we delivered. So this is mainly for recording the events to the Kubernetes objects. So this is helpful for mainly for recording any of the events. Like let's say if you have some resource and then if you want to attach some events like your success or failure. So mainly this becomes very important in case if you have some sort of a failures. Especially in your APIs or controller, wherever you want to report sort of failures. So this becomes very handy, and then those events can be directly populated to the resources like your machines and then VPC machines or IBM OVS machines or whatever. So that way it will be really handy for user to see what's really went wrong while creating the resources. Right. So Prajit, you want to add anything on top of that?
Yeah, Manju. So basically, we added events so that whoever the end user, whoever is deploying the cluster, right, gets a clear idea of what is happening by just executing one kubectl get events command, right? So we'll get the flow of what stage the cluster creation is process, right? At what stage it is and what has completed and what has failed, right? Rather than looking at the logs, right, and trying to figure it out from those everything like the huge log which we get. So that is one thing. And other thing to mention is that so far, like if you consider the VPC part of the event, so we have added a success and a failed event for the VPC itself, right? So what I tried to do was the other sub-dependent events, right? Like as a part of the VPC creation, you will create a subnet, you will create a floating IP. And for all those, we have just added failed events. We have not added success event, right? So whenever you see an VPC created successful event, you can assume, right, easily that all those sub events have successfully been created, right? Or only in case of anything fails, then you will see a failed event for those sub events as well, right? So we have tried to keep it to that, but yeah, for I think we can enhance more on adding in more successful events, right? For those as well.
Yeah, yeah, true that. I think, see, yeah, as of now, we have most of the failure events reported. So I think the plan is like we'll also have some successful events to, document where when it at least. So sometimes it will be helpful for certain use cases, like for example, the Power VS images. So we're just adding a success event for the job creation, but we are not adding a success event when the job completes, right? So I think some of those minor events will give us an idea like how much really time it took for the image import and also. I mean, right now I think there are different ways of finding it out, but I think some of these events will get us more information on certain things. So yeah, so
Yes,
you're saying something?
Yeah, no, I was saying, Manju, yes, from VPC perspective, at least the events look fine, right? Because
Yeah.
like VPC looks like the topmost tier, and everything below that, if nothing fails, then VPC gets created, that event is generated, right? And as you rightly mentioned out, like the Power VS image, right? So there is no way of user knowing if the image successfully got imported or not, because it has a import job part, right? So probably, as we discussed, right, like we can report to multiple failure events, right? So that is fine. So we can have a thing in a reconcile logic itself, and that should be like, this is like a fail case scenario wherein you're looking for the fail event,
Yeah.
since getting the success event is like a kind of tricky here. Yeah.
Yep, agree. I mean, agree, completely agree. But this framework, of course, will allow to add certain, like all these sort of records, and then yeah, it is always good to have records. I mean, definitely, because it'll be useful for the debug purpose. That's the information. So that's what the idea is. So, any questions here? All right. And we did fix some typos and then some minor issue with the record event. So it's not a big deal. And we added another option in the template now, especially this is for the CCM work again. So there was, see, if you look at the manager, I think we just allowed two ways of provider, I mean, documenting or updating provider ID. So V1 and then V2. So V1 is mainly the older format, and then V2 is mainly the newer format, and it works really well with CCM. So the intention of using V2 format is mainly for the CCM use case. Yeah, I mean, we didn't have a way to kind of override or use this option, the flag in the template, but this PR will add that option. So it will allow user to override the format they want to use while the deployment itself, right? So that's what the idea is. So now we have this particular environment variable, and then can override or can use this environment variable to override or use whatever provider ID you want to use for deployment. So that's the main goal for this site. And we also updated the doc, how to use that, and also in the build, so just need to add another variable, I mean the variable here and then the content. And then in the deployment, like if you're using cluster CTL, you just need to export this environment variable before triggering cluster CTL in deployment. All right, so that's about that. And then with with the same logic, we also kind of added the -v flag also. So right now it is assigned to 0, and then you can also override what I like log level. If you mention -5, it will just print all that debug logs. So I was just thinking whether we can add this information in the docs also, the get started docs, right?
Yeah,
There.
sure. I'll add that. Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe that'll be also.
Okay.
We create an issue log or to update documents. Enable what? Debug logs. So then all these are like maybe backlog discussions. Okay, so another PR I pushed. This is mainly for recording error scenario. Like it was missing actually. Like the like basically like in your machine flow, right? Machine controllers. So we were all just getting all the possible states for build and then shut off and then active and then whatnot, but you are not handling the error state properly. So this is, I've written another section for that. Basically what really happens is like, especially this is the case where the VM deployment get error, right? So mainly, I mean, there can be different reasons here, right? So one of the reasons we often seen are the valid scenario there is that, let's say you just run out of the IP address in that subnet, right? So that time your instance will not really get succeeded. So it will just it will get error with the message saying that your the VM doesn't really have enough IPs to deploy, right? So that is handled now properly. So now I am kind of looking at the fault message, and if it is if there is a fault, we are just getting the details from that fault, and then we are just using that message for setting the also like condition. We are marking it as the error reason, and then it's error, the instance error reason. So and then we are putting that message also in the condition, and also we are generating an event with the message what we are getting there. So this way you will get the error event in the resource type itself. So in the condition also it will get reported, and then also like it will get logged as event. So yeah, I think there is some other like one another issue I found is that our also like not sure whether it is issue or working as designed. So once it's errored, what I've seen is that instance never comes back to the OK state, as in it will never get rescheduled or whatever, right? I mean, so there's a possibility that your instance got errored, but we need to think how do we handle these errored instances, right? So because it will remain in error forever, so it will never ever get transited from error to some other new state. I think we need to add logic, or we need to discuss how do we handle the error instances, right? So that's something we need to, maybe we need to brainstorm or discuss. So just create an issue for that. Create an issue handle error instances. Right? So we need to find a way to handle these error instances. Maybe delete those error instances and retry creating another instance or whatever. Right? I think we just need more discussion. But anyways, any questions on this part? All right. Yeah, so I think as I mentioned, so we just need to have more discussion and then understand like how other folks are doing, right? So maybe I think we'll have to look at other provide us if there is any sort of a similar situation where if something gets errored or whatever, right? I mean, how do they handle it? Maybe just delete and create new one or whatever, right? Because in a given, I mean, basically what really happens in higher level, right? So I mean, machine deployment or whatever, so they just replicas mentioned, and then let's say if user is expecting to have 3 nodes, and so let's say out of 3, so there are two instances got deployed successfully, and third one got errored. But when once it becomes an error state, it is retaining in that state forever. So yeah, I mean, basically yeah, user is asking for 3, but it never becomes 3, right? So that's something we need to fix it. So I mean, we'll discuss more on that front. Like we'll create an issue and then discuss on that. I think we already seeing certain issues, right? Amulya, I think if you looked at our E2E failures, some of those issues are related to this one.
Yeah, I think a couple of them are related to this one.
Yep. Yeah, maybe handling that issue with proper fix might help us getting more successful runs. Okay, so that's about the commits we made in last 15 days. And going back to the backlogs. Okay, so this doesn't really have, maybe I'll just back to one. Okay, so I'll go back to the milestone. Okay, 2.0.2.1. So we have so many issues in place. We have 2 PRs already there for this. Maybe this will. Maybe I think we can go to this. Okay. Oh, this is mainly for. Okay, Prajit, you want to focus on this after fixing the other one, or?
Yeah, Manju, what I'll try to do is I'll try to fix it today as well. Yeah, if I get some time, right?
Okay.
Yeah, since it is pending, right? So I think it won't require much time. Like in half an hour, I should be able to fix it. Yeah.
Okay, so these are the 2 issues. Also, there's a VPC issue also there.
Yes, even this one I'll try to do it today as well. Yeah, I'll try to close like the smaller ones as many as possible today itself.
All right. And this test upgrade flow, did you get any chance to look at this, Mona?
Yes, I just started looking into it. So I'm just in the initial phase where I just tried the upgrade plan command, and the other providers like the Capic main controllers like the Cubadium, those are getting updated to the latest V1 beta 1, but for our controller it is not. So I was just looking into what is it actually looking at to upgrade the version, like some some version file, or what it is exactly looking for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, not necessarily we have to look for the entire automation thing, right? So let's maybe just for this phase,
Validate it,
let's
right?
yeah. So let's
Yeah, sure.
focus on the manual thing.
Yes.
The machine and the other stuff we'll look at the later. Right?
Yeah, sure, Manju, yeah.
And there is this one pending thing. Not sure if someone wants to pick up. So maybe you want to, maybe if you have some free time, maybe you want to take a look at this one.
Yeah, sure, Manju, I can do that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's assigned to you.
So however's planning was even like for improving the test coverage, right? Some refactoring would be required because right now VPC has no unit tests, proper unit tests at all. So before I start improving test coverage for VPC as well, so I'll refactor this and then proceed with adding the test. It does require.
Okay. All right. And then, yeah, so this is a little tricky. Boscos, I see you have submitted.
Yeah, I did submit.
But can you just edit this more information here?
Yeah, sure, Manju, I'll do that. Yeah, it makes more sense.
Yeah, not sure if we can deliver everything in 0.2.1 because this got external dependency also.
True. It might take more time.
Yeah, and this image import.
Yeah, this should like we just
But
have
do
to
you want
enhance the test, right?
to?
Sorry,
But do
yeah,
you
go
want to target for this release or you want to push it to next one?
we can push it to next release, like probably once we have the whole setup ready, and then we can the next task could be enhancing the test.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this one is pending on me. I'll just try to see if I can. I mean, there was an issue in Cube VIP, wasn't working fine for Power BI, so I'll just go back and then check. How do I do that? So I think I'll take a look at it. So yeah, I'll work on that. But yeah, this is about this milestone as in 0.2.1. And we'll have to see if anything else needs to be added to that. We'll have to go back and check. Yeah, so we'll have to create these issues also and then see if any of this will go to this or some. Yeah, next milestones. I don't want to discuss the remaining backlogs. That will maybe we'll do it later sometime. And this is another task I have created. So code coverage for UT, right? Yeah, right now it is next. But something, if someone is interested, please let us know. I mean, let me know. So maybe if you can start working on this. Going forward, the aim should be like we should have more coverage, UT coverage. Then in order to do that, we should also have some automated way of reporting the coverage, right? So for the PR, so we'll do that. This is very important.
Yeah, Manju, for the code coverage of a UT, right? So I had a discussion with Amulya also, and we'll try to work on that together, right? For this one. So
Okay.
yeah,
But who
because
want to take a lead? Who want to take a lead? So you or Amanda?
I think Amulya had mentioned to me that she would be fine taking the lead on this one.
Yeah.
Also from my end, like UT and all those things are like a new concept for me, right? From my end. So I'll probably
No
try
problem.
to,
No problem.
yeah, that's why I will probably try to learn from Amulya and get it so that I get the idea also, and then in future I can take it up. Like, yeah.
Yeah. And this one is a very important thing. I think we should also the another person who was working exploring the VPC thing, right? So he mentioned that machine health check is something he wanted to have it on his cluster, and this becomes relevant to ask also because machine health check is the important feature of cluster API. So we should also start exploring this stuff. At least my machine health check as the first priority and then remaining one later, right? All right, I think we'll discuss about others later, like once we release 0.2.1, so we'll think about the other tasks. All right, so anything else on discuss part of today's call? All right, if nothing else, then have a nice day and then weekend. Thanks, folks. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.